CinemaJaw is sponsored by Overcast, a better podcast app than whatever you're using right now. Unless it's Overcast. Get it now in the App Store, and we thank them for their support.
You're listening to CinemaJaw, the greatest movies podcast ever, recorded on location from our respective homes in Chicago. My name is Matt Kay, and with me is...
Rye the movie guy, and sitting inside the fish tank is Filmy and Phil.
How's it going, guys?
This week on CinemaJaw, Matt, we continue our celebration of 2020, the year in film, with our favorite scenes.
Yeah, I'm excited to talk about these scenes, but you know, as you were saying that sentence, we celebrate 2020, I had a little shudder went down my spine. Other than the movies distracting me, it's not been a year to celebrate for the most part.
No, and let's start there, Matt. Happy New Year. Happy 2021.
It's like a sigh of relief, everybody. Happy New Year, Ryan. I'm so glad to be on the other side of things.
Yeah, I've been in buildings that have been on fire that I wasn't excited about getting out of as much as I was getting out of 2020, you know?
How about it, man?
Yeah.
Good things on the horizon. Good things.
Yeah, the only thing that distracted us was the movies in 2020. And with that came some of great scenes that we want to celebrate. And that is our topic this week.
I love it. I'm so pleased to sort of stick the pin in the ear, as it were.
Agree. To help us with this list, we got to have a great guest, somebody who's seen a lot of movies in 2020, Matt.
Yeah, that's right. We bring back a movie guy, Leo Brady. And it's just always so much fun for me because you're Rye, the movie guy, and he's a movie guy. And I often wonder if you two get like mistaken for one another in crowds.
Well, he's a lot taller than me. I'll have to ask him his height, but I got Leo pegged at over 6 foot for sure.
I'd say 6'2".
He's like a giant.
Yeah, he's a big dude.
Yeah. In fact, I've had conversations with him where I can't hear him because he's just so damn tall.
Yeah. Well, hey, man, me too. He's taller than me, and I'm a little taller than you. So
Great. I think everyone's a lot taller than Ryan.
Oh, man.
I think we're missing the key factor.
Tough crowd. All right.
So both ends.
2021's beat up on Ryan. I love it. Well, besides that, we have much more going on, don't we, Phil?
Yeah, you know it. It is 2021 officially, so we are also bringing in the new year with a brand new theme that we will disclose later.
And we have a review of Wonder Woman 1984.
Excited to talk about Wonder Woman 1984. In honor of that review, Matt, you are taking Leo on in Gal Gadot, Christin Wiig movie trivia. The ladies of Wonder Woman.
All right, I'm in. It's going to be good.
And also, you know, it was interesting watching Wonder Woman 1984. I was really hoping, even though I knew we probably wouldn't get such a great moment like we did in the first Wonder Woman when Diana crosses no man's land. It's by far the greatest moment in DC movie history, Matt. I've determined this.
I don't know about that. I mean, it's a good moment and all, but I wouldn't say it's the greatest moment in DC movie history.
No, it's the greatest.
It's not the greatest, Ryan. In fact, I can think of one that's even better than that. The opening heist sequence in The Dark Knight. Better than the No Man's Land sequence.
That's not even the best scene in that movie, my God.
Get off your high horse. I tell you what, Ryan, are you ready?
CinemaWAR. You're going down, Matt Kay.
No, you're going down.
Oof. Well, Leo's going to have his hands full with that. So it's a jam-packed jaw like always, Matt. But we start with the theme, a brand new one. It's January. It's 2021. We got to come out swinging for the fences. Don't you agree?
I agree, man. Let's go big this time, Ryan.
Who do we got?
Yes, we are going big. You could say we're taking off. That was bad. It's Denzel Washington. I was trying to make a flight pun, but it made more sense when you know it.
It's a decent attempt. It's a decent attempt at a joke. It's going to
Denzel Washington. Denzel Washington has a new movie coming out and at the end of January 29th, I believe. It's entitled The Little Things. It will be on HBO Max and in theaters. So we have decided on Denzel Washington month. I like it. Let's start with a fact.
Yes, Denzel may be a two-time Oscar winner, but did you know that he was also awarded the title of police chief for a day? This was when he was a member of the Boys and Girls Club of America as a child, and there is a photo of it that you can see. It was shown on his last appearance of Live with Kelly and Ryan. So,
police chief for a day, and on that day, there was no crime.
I just love that he was police chief for a day and then he went on to make Training Day. Oh, man.
He's a badass.
He totally is. That is good stuff. All right, Matt, without further ado, we bring in our guest, a movie guy, Leo Brady. Welcome back to CinemaJaw.
Thank you for having me, gentlemen. This is fantastic to spend another great day with the CinemaJaw team. I love it.
Happy New Year, by the way.
Happy New Year to all three of you. This is fantastic. I've always loved being back.
Can't wait to get you back in the studio. But yes, thank you for joining us here on Zoom.
Yes.
It's the next best thing.
Yeah.
Leo, I was just over on your site, amovieguy.com. I have this correct, right?
Yes, correct.
And it looks like there was an entire makeover on that site.
Yes, there was a brand new website redesign. And yeah, I mean, with a lot of help from an excellent web designer. And I'm extremely happy with it. And everything just looks slick and new and easier to access. Fans can search for movie reviews now and search for interviews. And it's a great way to start 2021 for amovieguy.com to make things nice and fresh for everybody to get my movie reviews.
Looks good on you, Leo. I was always impressed with all the crazy interviews you managed to land, you know? So
yeah,
now they're right there front and center. So I know it's been sort of tough or maybe easier in the pandemic because of Zoom, but recently has there been an interview that sort of knocked your socks off? Somebody that you talked to who you didn't necessarily think you'd ever land?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think one of the biggest ones of 2020 for amovieguy.com was Louis Gossett Jr., which was fantastic. He was my first Oscar winner to interview in terms of like just to do a hot seat piece on an actor. And yeah, he was honestly one of the kindest people I've ever talked to. I mean, he just fascinated me as an actor. He kind of has had a nice rejuvenation with Watchmen. He's on that show, which has been a big hit. And then we ended the year with Ruby Rose, which was pretty cool as well. So, you know, and I always like to have variety of actors and directors on my hot seat. And this year was a very different and mixed group for amovieguy.com. It made things fun. It always makes it interesting.
Did you find because of, this new video technology we're all using, did it kind of make things easier, a little better? Or
honestly, I found it to be a lot easier for me in terms of interviews and editing without having to transcribe as much. I prefer to do video interviews like this, like the way we're talking right now. It allows me to be myself. It allows me to show a little bit of my personality, and I get a better feel for interviewing people, whether it's on the phone or, over a Zoom call. So yeah, I actually did enjoy it. I miss doing like red carpet interviews. Those are a lot of fun. So
yeah, there's an energy to it with the red carpet interviews for sure.
100%. I think it sort of keeps you on your toes, and you have to really be sharp in using your mind for questions and things of that nature.
How about with the reviews this year? Since we were watching most of the movies, obviously at home, did you feel that you would turn around and write the reviews any quicker, or did you still let it sort of digest and about do it the same as you used to?
Yeah, I'd say it allowed me to write more reviews because I certainly had a little bit more time. I mean, my work schedule changed from like 5 days a week to 3 days a week, which was certainly interesting. Yeah, I'd say about the same because for me, I do like to take time in making sure that I say everything I want to say about the movies that I'm reviewing.
You let it marinate for like 24, 48 hours.
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, like, I might get the review started. I'm not one of the, I know some film critics have told me that they've like started to write reviews while they're sitting in the theater, like on their phones.
Oh my
Like I've
goodness.
heard that from some people, and I've always just been like, that seems just like a big no-no in my opinion, you know? So
Let me ask you a film critic tip question here, because I often sit next to Rye the movie guy in the movie theater, and I have gotten him into journaling. We both celebrate this hobby of bullet journaling. It's a great way to organize and keep your notes together, etc. But he will bring his journal with him to the theater, and as he's watching a film, jot down notes as best he can in the dark. And it isn't terribly distracting to me or anything like that, but I can't do it. So do you do this, Leo? Do you take notes during a film?
Yeah, I do, but I would say that I'm a note taker with which way the wind goes, because sometimes with a movie, like I would tell you a movie like that comes off the top of my head, 1917, or a movie like Mission Impossible, like Ghost Protocol or whatever. I throw the notebook away, because I just find those movies are movies you close the book, you sit back, and you enjoy it. Other movies, yes, I will jot down a couple notes, but I still do struggle with like reading my notes that I write in the theater. and I think any critic who is able to do that is much better than I am. That's for sure. So
I'm right with you. Mine curve way up. Like my handwriting starts curving. It never goes straight. So everything's curved for some reason as I'm writing in the dark.
Have you guys considered those lights with the pens with the tiny lights on them? Or do you think that would distract your neighbors too much?
I've seen some film critics who do that and have those, and it distracts me. So
it distracts me as well.
Yeah.
I'm also conscious of the fact that I don't like to write too hard. I don't want to name names, but I've been at these screenings where some of the film critics are writing so hard that the actual sound of the pencil or pen on the paper is distracting me. And I don't want to be that guy.
That is, that makes sense.
Yeah. Really quick, Leo, I understand you published your top 10 recently.
I did.
What was your number one film of the year? I'm dying to hear this one.
Yeah, I mean, I just put me into the basket with a lot of other people who have praised it, but I am Team Nomadland all the way. Chloe Zhao's film, you know, I haven't stopped thinking about it. I could talk about it for hours, and I think it's a movie just about life, about living, about everything, about turning off our cell phones and getting away from all the stresses of life. And I think that's something that a lot of people dream about doing in some ways. They have like sort of a romantic view of it. And I loved it. I loved it from start to finish. I just thought it was great.
Right there with you, man. If you go back a few episodes when we reviewed it, I was glowing about it. Favorite film of the year as well.
Yeah.
Putting you on the hot seat here, Leo, we are celebrating Denzel Washington.
Yeah.
All month long, and we're going to throw a tough question at you. We like to play this game. We call it Keep, Destroy, Spielberg Remake. I'm going to throw you 3 Denzel Washington movies, and you got to do just that. Keep one, destroy one for all time, and have Spielberg remake a movie. Your 3 Denzel movies are Malcolm X, Training Day, Philadelphia.
Oh my God.
Oh my goodness. This is difficult. This one is tough.
Very unfair. Okay. Keep Malcolm X.
All right. So we're keeping Malcolm X as is.
Yes.
It's a masterpiece in your opinion.
It's my favorite Spike Lee film.
Okay.
It's my number one above Do the Right Thing. And I'm a big fan of that film as well, but huge fan of Malcolm X. So keep that one. I'm going to have to say Destroy Training Day.
Wow.
I know, because that one is
Oscar-winning performance from Denzel gone.
And it's one of Antoine Fuqua's sort of fiercest movies, I think, that he's made, and I love Ethan Hawke as an actor. And the remake would be Philadelphia with Spielberg, and actually that I think that fits perfectly because Tom Hanks and Spielberg work well together. And I don't believe, interestingly enough, I think like Denzel's talked about this a lot, but I don't think Denzel has worked with Spielberg. So it's like, it's kind of a match made in heaven for a movie of that nature, you know, true story of, you know, the AIDS epidemic, things of that nature. So, yeah.
Well, I wrote it down here. That's exactly what I would do too. So I wouldn't change that at all. I'm right with you on Malcolm X, especially out of those three movies. It's a masterpiece, where I do think Training Day is the weakest of the three.
Yeah.
And I like Training Day. I'm not one of those guys that trashes the film. And then you're right. If you're going to have Spielberg remake anything out of those three, I think Philadelphia is the way to go, especially with the connection with Tom Hanks.
I got a different take on this one, fellas. I think, and I know this is blasphemy, but of these three movies, I got to get rid of one. I am going to say, sorry, Spike. He's got a large body of work at this point. Let's get rid of Malcolm X, because I do think Philadelphia is worth saving. To see Tom Hanks and go through the AIDS epidemic thing, I think it opened a lot of eyes, but also for the fact that I would love to see Spielberg remake Training Day. How bonkers would that be?
Yes, that is a very good point. I cannot even argue with that, actually.
It'd be weird.
It would be so weird.
It sure would. Good call there, Matt. For the jawheads that want to check out your full top 10 list, read all your reviews online, where should we send them, Leo?
Send them directly to amovieguy.com. It's right on the homepage, and it's all over my social media websites, social media accounts as well. So yeah, definitely check it out and let the debate begin. I think I've got a pretty interesting top 10.
Nice. Do it, Jawheads. And we'll throw a link into the show notes for everybody, as we always do.
Yeah.
Wonder Woman 1984, Matt. Time to talk about it here. 10 months, believe it or not, have passed since Birds of Prey, and 9 months since Bloodshot. We went an entire spring and summer movie season without any superhero films. In normal circumstances, this may have actually made me happy. But knowing it was due to the pandemic, I was saddened like many other moviegoers. Have no fear. Wonder Woman is here to save us. 3.5 years ago, on this very podcast, I gave the first Wonder Woman 4 jaws. So did Matt Kay. It was a unanimous hit. So who better to come lassoing onto our TV screens and movie screens to remind us just how fun a superhero film could be? It had to be Wonder Woman. What could possibly go wrong?
I don't want to be like anyone. I want to be an apex predator.
You've always had everything, while people like me have had nothing. Well, now it's my turn. Get used to it.
Matt, Leo, I hated Wonder Woman 1984. There was nothing I liked. I feel this was not only a major letdown, but also a major regression for the character. Set in 1984, which when this was announced some 3 years ago seemed really cool, but now seemed forced and a dated idea to highlight the 80s. Didn't work for me. Diana works for the Smithsonian, as does her coworker, played by Christin Wiig. They have a stone in their possession that can grant wishes. Yes, this is the plot of Wonder Woman 1984. A stand-in for Donald Trump named Maxwell Lord is the only person who knows the power this stone has. Wishes are made, wishes are granted. Chris Pine gets to show up again because of this plot device. It was just as bad as we all hoped it would be. Wonder Woman uses her lasso, fights a cheetah, says goodbye to Chris Pine, saves some idiot kids who are playing soccer on the only road in town for a 75-mile radius. There is some chaotic things that happen, but really, nobody cares. This was a complete mess. And it starts with, I want to know who greenlit this script. Let's get that person, shove them in a box, and bury it. The story sucked, plain and simple. Too much going on. It was convoluted and absolutely ridiculous. Matt, was there anything to like this time around for Wonder Woman in your eyes?
No. And I have to pin the blame squarely on Patty Jenkins. And it pains me to say that, but she had more control this time. She's got a writing credit here. And I agree. Patty Jenkins is a powerhouse. She's written some great stuff. I don't know what she was smoking. And seriously, like you mentioned, Rye, they've had so long to like rethink this, maybe do some reshoots. You know, somebody should have let her know that this movie is a steaming pile. Huge pacing issues. I agree. The whole plot, the MacGuffin, horrible. There are some things to enjoy about this movie. And I will say that Pablo Pascal.
I missed him.
Well, it's in the performance. Pablo Pascal as Max Lord was great. I think Christin Wiig, right up until the CG at the end, was also really good. And Gal Gadot is, you know, maybe not quite as lovable in this one, but she was serviceable. Chris Pine was Chris Pine. You know, I guess he was kind of the eye candy. Yeah. Also, another highlight for me was the mall sequence in the beginning, this action sequence that opens up the movie, where we have Wonder Woman whipping around with her lasso, foiling a robbery. And it not only looked like the 1980s, but it looked like a movie that was made in the 1980s. And if they had continued on with that, I thought at that moment we were in for a real treat. I'm like, oh, okay, I see what she's going for. This is going to be one of those cheesy 80s superhero movies. But then it just falls apart as soon as the second act starts. I mean, really before the end of the first act, just pretty much after that scene, crap. And that fight at the end. I mean, Jesus Christ, it looks like it was made 15 years ago.
It was bad.
Yeah, it was really, really bad.
Leo, where do you chime in on this? Me and Matt obviously really down on it.
Yeah, same, guys. I mean, you know, I hate to keep whipping a dead horse here, but I, you know, was the superhero movies that I was thinking about was movies like Batman and Robin and Amazing Spider-Man 2. I mean, this movie just had really odd choices of CGI moments. You mentioned the scene where she's saving the kids in the street. It's just, you know, it just is, a lot of it seems nonsensical in why they would think that this would be good. The pacing issues that Matt mentioned, you know, it starts out with this opening sequence that is exciting and it seems to get you in the mood, and then it just dies. I mean, it just is just so boring in the like first act up until finally some stuff starts to happen with, you know, the wishes being granted and bad guys, like you said, the MacGuffin on the search to stop Max Lord. That sort of picks it up a little bit, but everything else just seems so poorly decided on. And it's really just got to be one of the most disappointing movies of 2020.
I'm right with you. I was just so let down. But two things I did want to comment on there. One, I've went back to this, where at the time when Wonder Woman was a hit and they announced that they were going to make the sequel and they said it was going to be called Wonder Woman 1984, I think we were all like, oh my God, that just sounds so cool. Wonder Woman in the 80s.
Yeah.
But in the 3 years when Stranger Things has come out and already did this whole series that took place in the mall, there's been other things that have been taking place in the 80s. By the time this already now is hitting the screens, I thought it was just ridiculously dumb and boring, and nothing worked as far as this laughter that we were supposed to get from Chris Pine wearing the 80s outfits and the fanny pack and the parachute pants. I thought all of that was completely stupid and should have been cut from the film.
Well, I think what you really have to ask yourself when you're watching these scenes with Chris Pine is, how did that work out for Crocodile Dundee 2? You know? This is Patty Jenkins essentially took Wonder Woman and stuck her into Crocodile Dundee too. It's the same thing. It's the fish out of water reversed. It's come on.
Right. Well, and I think like she's trying to subvert it by giving the guy the getting dressed and changed montage from like 80s movies that we've seen, like Pretty in Pink or whatnot. But I still think it also doesn't work because halfway through you're realizing they really shouldn't even have brought Chris Pine's character back. You know, you're saying to yourself,
100%.
Why is this guy even here when he had such a graceful exit in the first one? You know, and I think Matt even talked about like, why didn't they go back and do reshoots and things like this, which is a big thing to bring up because, and I don't know if it's spoilery, but I was so mad at the end of this movie that it felt like they tacked on a Christmas movie theme.
Yes.
When clearly this is a 4th of July summer movie.
Totally.
So it just doesn't make sense, you know, why they would even do that at the end.
I thought that too. Do you think that was a reshoot?
I think it was 100%.
100% too. Yeah.
Because if it did come out in July, like when it was supposed to, it would have been bizarre to end on a Christmas type theme. So yes, I'm right with you, Leo.
Yeah.
But the scene that I've brought up and we've commented on where she's trying to stop the convoy and eventually then saves these kids who are playing soccer on the only road in you know, maybe the whole part of this country.
Right.
The whole idea of her actually stopping the convoy is kind of dumb. It's not like there's a missile on the convoy or she has to stop him by the time he gets to wherever he's going. She could just go ahead and when the convoy stops, then talk to him. There's really no reason to have that huge action sequence that we end up getting. It's so
good
dumb.
Observation. Yeah.
Very good observation.
Really hated it. And last but not least, one thing that we didn't comment on was the film opens up with young Diana back on the island. I don't know what the name of her island is. Do you know, Matt?
Themyscira.
Yeah, Themyscira.
Okay. Yeah.
So this has obviously been a hit, the first Wonder Woman. So didn't it feel forced that they threw that in there just so that it was like, okay, it's familiar territory. We're getting to know young Diana again.
No, I didn't mind that at all.
For me.
I actually enjoyed that scene. In fact, if I had to pick one scene that's the best in the whole movie, that's it. It's the only thing that has any touch of the heart and soul of the first Wonder Woman in the whole damn picture. I was willing to suspend my disbelief in the mall scene because it was bright and fun. Yeah. And I've already talked about that. But the Themyscira scene was good. Robin Wright gives her that little, you can't take a shortcut thing. But then what pisses me off is that payoff really there in the end? That lesson that she learns in the beginning of the movie, is it really there, or is it really just about the big golden wing armor that she uses just to make an entrance and then absolutely means nothing after that?
Right.
Man.
Just boo on this whole thing.
Yeah. I mean, it was, and Matt, you brought up like the mall scene, which like, yes, I was having, you know, Chopping Mall, Fast Times at Ridgemont High sort of flashbacks when you see that sequence, which is fantastic, which I loved. Like, I was like, okay, this is getting on the right path, but it never even feels really that much 1980s outside of the wardrobe after that, really.
And barely, right? Just that one joke scene with Chris Pine. Yeah, I'm with you, Leo.
Yeah, total stinker here. We got a movie poster quote, Matt?
I honestly, no. Go tie yourself up with a lariat instead.
I went with, who would have thunk it? Birds of Prey ended up being the best superhero film of 2020.
That's a true fact.
That is
right there.
Yeah, that is.
Yeah. How many jaws on a 4-jaw scale here, guys?
It's 1.5. There's some decent performances in here, and I did think some of the action pieces were decent. It wasn't like a total slog, like horrible, but pretty darn close. 1.5 jaws. I don't recommend it necessarily.
Leo?
Yeah, I'm actually at 1.5 too. Funny, quick little tidbit. I watched this movie like twice within less than 24 hours because my wife wanted to watch it, and I wanted to make sure I had a review up on amovieguy.com, and I hated it more on second viewing. So 1.5 jaws.
Yeah, I'm right with you. You know, we were just quick behind the scenes. We were waiting for this movie to come out on HBO, and then we did get a screener for it earlier in the week. And this kicked off my quote unquote Christmas vacation. Wednesday, done with work. Let's crack open a beer. Let's watch Wonder Woman. What could possibly go wrong? I say that, and I was not being, that's exactly my feeling at the time. And then to walk out of it, I was like, I can't believe I just watched that complete mess. It was like a downer of a movie, you know? Yeah. I'm with you. 1.5 Jaws for Wonder Woman, 1984. If you guys have seen it, Jawheads, and you disagree with our review, we'd love to hear somebody actually praising this movie. You can always write us feedback@cinemajaw.com. Spoiler alert, no scenes from Wonder Woman 1984 made my top 5 best scenes of 2020. I can say that with conviction.
Right there with you.
That is our topic this week. Leo, you're our guest. Was this an easy list for you to come down to, or did you have a tough time actually narrowing it down to 5?
It was tough. It was tough. It was not easy. I probably could have spent time and come up with 20 scenes that were favorites of the year. But I tried to sort of limit myself and make sure that I had at least a good 10, favorite moments from 2020. And I'm pretty happy with what I have.
Let's hear your number 5.
Yeah. Interesting. I have to sort of let it be known about this documentary called Collective. And I hope a lot of people have heard about this movie, because it's kind of a shocking movie, about the medical field. And I'm blanking on, it's Romania where this takes place.
Yeah,
okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It basically takes place after a massive, terrible accident that happened at like a concert hall where the pyrotechnics went out of control and there were no fire exits for people to get out of this concert hall, and 30 plus people died from the fire. But the movie is a documentary about the people who were the burn victims after the fact, and how the medical system failed, to get these people who were burn victims, who should have been surviving from these burns, failed to get them the care that they needed, and they were neglecting these patients. So there's a scene in this movie, Collective, where a journalist gets a copy of this, that a nurse gives him this video in the hospital, and they zoom in, and the patient has, I kid you not, maggots growing on its like opened wounds.
Oh my God.
And it was like one scene in this documentary that just had me screaming in shock, the way Matt was just saying, oh my God, because it is such a shocking scene that I could not believe that something like this, and I believe it now, in 2020 could happen to somebody trying to get help at a hospital. It's just shocking. It's absolutely stunning.
Yeah, it was my pick, actually, for my favorite documentary of 2020. I was blown away by it. And a second scene is the actual accident in the concert hall where there's people with phone footage. And I mean, it's terrifying. It's terribly sad. It made my palms sweat watching it, because you understand the position these people were in and how fast that flame went up. We're talking a matter of 5 seconds, and everybody was you could tell everybody's lives were in danger in within 5 seconds.
Yeah. And it's definitely a scene that I did not forget in 2020. I mean, it was one of the biggest things that stuck out to me. And
wow, a heavy pick at number 5 for Leo Brady. I hope he cheers us up. It's not all doom and gloom.
I don't think
Leo
I do.
Brady.
I'm looking at my list. I don't think I do.
Wow, he comes into 2021 with just a doom and gloom pick. Matt, pick us up, buddy.
All right. I went a little lighter here, folks.
Yeah.
And I also, for my criteria, I tried to highlight some scenes from films that weren't necessarily on my top 10 of the year. But these are all fantastic scenes. And my first one number 5 comes from The Vast of Night.
Nice one, man.
Yeah.
The opening sequence, that gym sequence where the camera just follows the DJ around this gymnasium. He goes through the basketball court. He goes behind the bleachers. He's trying to fix something up in one of the control rooms. And then he finally goes out into the parking lot where all the people are, arriving for this big game. Such a amazing long take scene. That was Andrew Patterson directing that movie. And I think we can all agree, one of the more original movies of the year, something I hadn't quite seen distilled in such a way before. And I liked it quite a bit.
Yeah. I have some honorable mentions, but technically this was on my list also, Matt. And preparing for this list, I actually went onto YouTube, was doing research, and came across there's actually a great behind the scenes feature on how they actually made some of these long tracking shots.
Oh, awesome.
And they went on talking about how they were actually prepping for 6 months to pull that off.
Way.
I mean,
wow.
There was a camera on like a buggy, like a go-kart that would eventually get to the gym, and off camera, you wouldn't see it, but they would actually be able to take the camera off of that rig onto a handheld, which brought it into the gym. All this stuff and all the behind the scenes of it all. It's amazing.
It is a great scene. Go check it out on YouTube, Jawheads.
Yeah, Fast of Night, and that is streaming on Amazon Prime. Good pick, Matt. My number 5, when we did our list, top 10 list, speaking of, with Brian Tallarico, there was one movie mentioned on that episode that I had not seen, and it was David Byrne's American Utopia. And this is a concert movie on HBO Max. It's directed by Spike Lee. And since that episode, I corrected this and saw it. I went and I watched the movie, and I'm glad it was on Brian Tallarico's list because it is definitely one of the best films of the year. Did you see this one, Leo?
It's my number 3 movie of the year.
There you go.
It's just absolutely fantastic. I listened to the album on Spotify. It's just it was the most entertaining and fun that I've had all year. Actually,
100%.
Yeah.
And David Byrne from the Talking Heads, and he's with this band. They're all barefoot on stage. It's a very clean look stage. Watch it in the darkest room possible because they do a lot of cool stuff with the lights in the concert that really blow you away. And Spike Lee captures this footage great. The scene that I want to highlight here is when David Byrne sings Janelle Monáe's Hell You Tell 'Em About, which is also known as Say His Name song. And this is a protest song where the entire band takes turns, about 3 of them at a time, yelling to the crowd, say his name, followed by a name of an African-American who died due to racial violence. And they start yelling basically at the camera to say his name. And then Spike Lee would cut to pictures of the victims and their names and their ages of when they died. And it's an extremely powerful scene, but it's also a scene that brings you together because you've been on this journey of listening to this band and this experience of the music the whole time, that the crowd starts to get into it. And me as a viewer at home started to get into it, and I'm just by myself. And I could almost start yelling the names out loud because I was just so into the moment. What a scene and
Wow.
what a movie.
Good pick, Ryan.
Yeah.
I asked this to Brian, but somebody who's not like a huge Talking Heads or David Byrne fan, would I still get a lot out of this film?
I think so.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah, okay. I'm not the biggest Talking Heads fan, but yeah, I mean, like I said, watch it in a dark room just for the presentation, turn up the volume a little bit. And the way Spike Lee filmed it is just beautiful. There's a couple like overhead shots that are incredible. And there's a couple where like maybe a spotlight is on David Byrne. And when that spotlight goes off, a spotlight goes on 2 other people. And it literally looks like he vanished in front of your eyes because of the way the lighting is done. It's amazing.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. And 2020 was actually a really great year for music documentaries in general. And I think to answer your question, Matt, about like, would you like it if you didn't enjoy the Talking Heads? I think the answer is definitely yes, because it's very transcendent in concerts. I think it's like, it makes it its own art piece and music and art and concert all at the same time. It really is a complete artistic, piece of cinema and music.
All right, man. I'm in.
Yeah.
This is on my list to see before we vote.
Yeah.
Into our number 4 as we go. Leo, what do you got sitting there?
Number 4 is a moment that I experienced in a movie theater in 2020, which is the opening sequence of Lee Whannell's The Invisible Man. I think Elizabeth Moss's escaping sequence from her abusive boyfriend's home, from the minute the film opens up with these really interesting title cards where the waves are crashing against a rock, and as the waves like trickle down, you see the title of the film. He just had me and I think that entire sequence has no dialogue, nothing happening like that would make you know who these characters are or who we're watching, and yet we are absolutely afraid for her life and what she's trying to escape. You kind of realize that she's trying to get out of somewhere, and it's quiet and it's just tense. And I give that scene so much credit because Lee Whannell just immediately had me hooked from that first sequence.
Yeah, feels like a different time when we saw that in the
oh
theater.
My God. And the sound, actually,
the sound design is incredible.
The sound design is fantastic in that scene. Yeah, and she kicks a dog bowl and it just scares the crap out of you.
Oh my God, I remember.
Yeah,
I was sitting next to Matt Caillou. I think we saw it in that like THX theater, if I remember where the screening was.
Yeah.
And the sound in that thing, I mean, your seat literally rattles with the bass. And I remember she kicked the dog bowl and I almost fell out of my seat. I was like jolted, and it was just a dog bowl going across the floor.
Right.
That was a moment for sure. I wasn't super high on this movie, but that opening sequence is definitely my favorite from the film.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
All right. Over to me. Another movie I wasn't super high on, but definitely a big movie. This one comes from Tenet, and I would have to go with the art heist, which is kind of the elbow of this movie, if you will, of this Mobius strip of a film. How the characters, and I don't want to spoil it for those who haven't seen Tenet because it is a big kind of mystery that you have to unravel. But the way that characters in this scene are moving in two different directions temporally, let's say, it was pretty original, pretty fantastic. The way that it all comes together and comes back together was dazzling. And there are major problems with this movie, but there are no major problems with this scene. I think that the scene is the best part of the entire picture. So there you have my number 4.
Yeah, I mean, you're stealing all my thunder. I'm glad I wrote down a bunch here because this was also a notable one for me. And I talked about it on our top 10 list. This film landed at number 10 for me. And I wanted to talk about it because, as I mentioned in that episode, it's the only time I was wowed in a movie in 2020 because it was a big action, thought-provoking piece on exactly what you're saying. The way this thing was put together, like it or dislike Tenet, you still got to tip your hat for how well he was able to put that together, because it was ending and there was only maybe 15 or so of us in the theater, and there was a little bit of applause because I think we were like, yes, this guy's a master.
Totally, man. I guarantee, Ryan, I'm not stealing any more off your list. Almost positive.
All right. Well, at number 4, I actually had Vast of Night, the 4-minute continuous shot that is literally incredible. So I'm going to fill one in here and go with one that I have talked about. It's popped up a little bit here in our end of the year celebration. Who knew that it would come up on Matt's top 10? And it also came up on our best acting performances when I mentioned Rachel McAdams. But I am going to put Eurovision Songathon on the list. It's an absolute highlight in Eurovision. And this is where they're at
the middle.
Yeah, they're at a party, and what they call a songathon breaks out, where it's just a melody of all these song mixing together, and you get the main characters, Will Ferrell, Dan Stevens, Rachel McAdams, to sing different parts, but it's also populated with all these other people who have actually been in Eurovision through the years. So the more you know Eurovision and know these characters, the more rewarding this particular scene is. And they play everything from, what's the
ABBA.
They play ABBA, but they also play,
Cher.
Sing, Black Eyed Peas, Cher. It keeps going on, and it ends on just an absolute high note. It's a feel good moment in this movie for sure. Is this huge songathon that takes place in Eurovision?
Yeah,
dude. I mean, you know where this fell on my top 10 list, and having seen a couple more films since then, I don't regret it. In fact, I wouldn't change it. I love this movie. I'll give it to you. I don't think that's the best scene in the whole movie, but that was a really good scene.
Yeah. My number 3. Yeah.
Yeah. What do you prefer, the hamster wheel scene there, Matt?
I don't know. I think some of the more subtle scenes, like like the stuffing of the cod piece, to make my ding dong look bigger. The bar scene. There's so many great moments. Even Volcano Man. That came right out of left field. I was like, what the hell is this? Love the whole movie.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. I should say that was my number 4. We're into our number 3s. Leo, what do you got sitting there?
Sorry, I'm going to be the guy that brings us down again. But my number 3 is the ending scene of a movie called Baby Teeth, which is, an absolute. It's a tearjerker, to say the least. It's a movie that, not enough people are talking about it. It's a movie about, a daughter is dealing with a terminal issue, and directed by Shannon Murphy. Fantastic film, but it's this moment where a father and daughter, the father played by Ben Mendelsohn, they have this just absolutely, honest and heartbreaking conversation about life and about what it's all meant for them, and about her falling in love with this guy who's kind of an addict. He clearly is kind of a, guy who's been thrown out by his mom. But it's just a really emotional moment. And, full disclosure, I was just weeping like a babbling little child. It was just so heartbreaking to me, but honest, and a really beautiful scene to end a movie with. So it was one of my favorites of the year.
You don't have to defend yourself, Leo. Don't listen to Ryan. It's okay. You want to go for the emotional beats. I respect.
Hey, this was high, very high on my top 10 of the year, Baby Teeth. So I'm right with you, Leo. And actually, this is also listed on my list. And it is the same exact scene, just a slightly different moment. But again, with the ending and dancing around spoilers, it's more when the young druggie comes out of her bedroom, and the reaction of the two parents and who knows what and everything that's going on. The acting in that scene is incredible. It's so sad. I mean, not like I got emotional. I mean, tears out of both eyes, crying sad. It was just devastating.
Not dripping down your face.
I mean, devastating. I was watching that film on my laptop in bed next to my wife, and my wife's like, "Are you okay?" Like, I'm just like, "Leave me alone."
Yeah.
It's a lot. Yeah.
Big fan. It is streaming on Hulu, so do check it out, Jawheads. And like I said, on the best of the year, have a box of Kleenex ready to go.
All right, swings it over to my number 3, gents. And this is where I put in a scene I would call the dinner scene from a movie by Charlie Kaufman called I'm Thinking of Ending Things.
Yes.
And here you have certainly 3, and I would go ahead and say 4 powerhouse actors in Toni Collette, David Thewlis, Jesse Plemons, and Jesse Buckley. Yep. Pretty much just, you would say usually one actor was chewing the scenery, but all 4 of them are just going toe to toe. This scene is weird. This scene is just bonkers, surreal, and only Charlie Kaufman could have written such a thing in a way that worked on screen, because the characters, without giving too much away for those who haven't seen it, it's a tough watch, but this is sort of where the movie pivots and characters start to sort of change mid-scene. And I think less experienced actors could have easily gotten mixed up and not given a good performance here. But holy shit. I mean, this burns down the house. It's such a good scene in a good, challenging, a little bit draining of a movie, if I'm being honest. But I really, really enjoyed this dinner scene. I went back and watched it on YouTube. And I think this is when the dread of the movie is still so pregnant and hasn't yet drained, because it does toward the end of the third act. We're sort of just along for the ride, but we're still in that really heightened sense of dread in this scene. That's my number 3.
Awesome.
I love the movie. I love the scene.
Did I steal another one of yours?
No, you did not. That's the first one nobody's stolen on the show.
And honestly, for me too, I love that movie too. It's in my top 10, and it was hard for me to pick a scene from that movie. It's one of those where I was like, well, that scene's good, and then the scene after that's good, and it's just it's fascinating.
I agree. Yeah, the dinner scene definitely a highlight. The car ride to the parents' house.
Right.
There's a few highlights in that movie, but the dinner scene, it works totally, Matt. I agree with that. Again, truth be told, number 3 was Baby Teeth. I'm going to sub one in. I'm going to go for a complete wild card. We shouldn't forget that this movie came out in 2020 because nobody's talking about it at the end of the year.
Bloodshot.
And for good reason. But it did have one unbelievably memorable scene, and I'm going with Capone. Tom Hardy actually played Capone. It was
that's a good call.
Decisive. Some people didn't know what to make of the movie at all. I mean, it was... when you hear Tom Hardy's playing Capone, you don't think you're going to get an aging Capone like the one we got on screen.
Right.
And for my scene of that movie that I want to highlight is what I wrote down in my notebook, slanted, but it was written down in my notebook, was Tom Hardy in a diaper firing a golden machine gun. And it's basically when the movie gets as wacky as it absolutely gets. Yeah. And it is sort of built into this moment, and it sort of hits its crescendo there with this just wacky Tom Hardy acting performance. It's almost like you have to see it to believe it. But yes, Tom Hardy in a diaper firing a golden machine gun. My number 3 that I'm filling in there.
Hats off to you, dude. I did forget about Capone, and shame on me. It is definitely a better movie that people should be talking about.
I agree with that. I think, it's a weird movie, but it tries so many different things, especially with like biopics and like how they're done. That movie is unique because it is just like crazy. It's wild.
It is. We've got some wild movies here.
Yeah. There we go. Into our 2s. What do we got sitting there?
My number 2 is, again, kind of a little bit of a downer, but and interestingly enough, my 2 and 1 kind of have a unique connection to them. But it's a scene in the movie Never, Rarely, Sometimes, Always, and where the actress Sydney Flanagan is in the doctor's office getting questions about her relationships and why she is pregnant and maybe, her sexual history. And the camera just stays on her face. And all we're here, we don't see the nurse. We don't see, her facial features. And it's one of the best moments of acting in 2020 where she is emotionally answering these questions, and she just starts breaking down for us, crying on camera. And we are just emotionally there with her. It's intense. It's heartbreaking. And you just feel nothing but, we talk about movies being that empathy machine. You just feel nothing but empathy for this young woman going through this. It's a beautiful scene, but it's also, incredibly real. So it's my number 2 of 2020.
It seems like this scene has been talked about quite a bit here the last couple of weeks, and for good reason. I think I didn't put it on my list because we talked about it the last 2 episodes. In my honest opinion, I think it's the scene of the year. I think it's the best. There's one other great acting scene in the year that I'm about to mention. So maybe I could seal yours, Leo Brady.
Yes, I think
but I would say they're 1-1. I think there's two phenomenally acted scenes in 2020, and it's that one and the one I'm about to mention.
I agree, man. In all honesty, at number 2, I also had that scene, the questionnaire, for lack of a better name. And I think honesty is the word. That's the word I kept using when we reviewed it. If I had to sub one out, instead of going with my number 6, which could still be on somebody else's list, I'm going to go for another long take scene. And this is the escape scene in the action movie Extraction with Chris Hemsworth. You can kind of say what you want. It's a bit of a dumb action movie, but I think it was just maybe one notch above your typical dumb action movie. Yeah. And it was fun. It had a bit of heart. I think Chris Hemsworth is such a likable actor. The supporting cast was great, especially that young guy who played Ovi, the kid that he was rescuing.
Throw it in the fish tank, that guy's name.
Yes, please do, because he was great. Another fantastic little newcoming performance. But this scene is, I think, 12 minutes long, and there's some digital splicing, no doubt. But the
Throw
camera
that in the fish tank also. How long this shot is in Extraction. The long take.
Again, I don't think anyone's given him credit for this being a continuous shot because there are digital cuts, but ostensibly to the viewer, it is one shot that doesn't cut as we follow him jumping and fighting and dodging bullets, and it's pretty ramped up. It's a great piece of adrenaline for 2020 at a time when we needed some action.
Yeah, that's true. Well, and I don't know if this is another fish tank question, but doesn't that shot change angles? It goes to like point of view, and then it goes from like around the other side of the guys that he's fighting as well, or is it just all POV?
I forget, but throw that in the fish tank. And it was actually an honorable mention of mine, Matt. I have this down way down on the list, but it did make my list of something that I was hoping that would come up, because you're right. It did fill in sort of the action movie at home experience at the time. And I thought this sequence was the best in the movie that it had to offer. So quite a violent movie too.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was an action movie, of course.
Yeah. So my number 2, and I think I'm stealing Leo Brady's number 1. I'm happy to do so. But I would say it's right up there with the best acting, as we mentioned, Sidney Flanigan. And I think Chadwick Boseman pours on the other one. And it's a scene from Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, in which Chadwick Boseman's first monologue, he has 2 great scenes in this, extremely powerful, extremely well acted. But I'm going with the first monologue, in which he's explaining to the band members, because he is just sort of, in a way, sort of kissing up to the guy who runs the record studio, because he wants him to produce a song that he's written. And once he leaves, the band all kind of makes fun of Chadwick Boseman's character. And he goes into this monologue explaining to him his past experiences with the white man, and how the white man treated his father, how he saw that, and how that shaped him to be the man that he is. This is just one of them that's so intense of a scene and so emotionally moving. That's another one. I think it would be tough to sit through and no one wouldn't feel emotion. I mean, it swells up in you as you're seeing this come across from Chadwick Boseman. It's an incredible moment in 2020, I think.
Yeah. You're not stealing my number 1, but it is, it's arguably one of the best performances of the year. And God, it's also incredibly sad as well. I mean, that we've lost, a fantastic actor and somebody that he delivers by far his best performance in Ma Rainey, and his monologues are absolutely, gives you chills. It's like goosebumps watching him.
For sure.
Yeah.
That was my number 2. So that leaves our number 1 picks here on CinemaJaw. Your favorite scene of 2020, Leo?
Yeah, number 1 for me is the monologue by Delroy Lindo in Spike Lee's Da 5 Bloods. He's got this absolutely shattering monologue direct to the camera, speaking to the audience, speaking to the world about how he feels and how he had been treated as a veteran that had fought in Vietnam. And it's where I think Delroy Lindo is going to sort of lock up an Oscar nomination with that scene. I hope it's the reason why he wins the Oscar this year. I think it's the pinnacle moment in Da 5 Bloods, and it sort of speaks everything about how veterans, especially Black American veterans, feel, after serving for their country and coming back to a place that treated them less than as people should be treated. So fantastic performance from a fantastic actor. So
yeah, I agree. That was my number 6, the one I'm glad now that I did not mention. Absolutely love this scene. I think it was an early lock for the nomination right there for Delroy Lindo. Yep. I don't know, Leo, if he's got this one in the bag, but we can talk about Oscar predictions at another time.
Yeah.
My number 1 comes from a movie that I think was sort of built around this one scene in a large way. I think they didn't know going in that this was the scene they were going to build it around. They might have had a different scene in mind that they wanted to build the movie around, but nevertheless, clever filmmakers and people who can write on their toes made this work, and it became the movie scene of the year in the way that it was talked about in the media. This one scene became the story of a movie that's still perfectly good without the scene. And of course, I'm talking about the Rudy Giuliani scene. Borat subsequent movie film.
Fantastic pick.
How they managed to bring in a little piece of reality. I mean, I guess that's what the Borat films do. They bring in large chunks of reality, but this hit really close to home, didn't it? And it just kind of got the timing of it freaking perfect. I mean, you can't plan to catch lightning in a bottle, but somehow they did, and they made a movie around it. And not only that, but the scene itself, I've watched it a few times now just to make sure it wasn't all fluff. The scene's pretty good because we have this transformation of his daughter. And oh my God, I feel like a jerk because I'm forgetting this actress's name. Phil, can we throw it in the fish tank? Because I also think that she might get nominated, and deservedly. But to see her transformation, her character arc sort of culminate in this Giuliani scene was fantastic. It was shocking. And it was really Rudy Giuliani, who was the nutcase character of the year, maybe in the entire world, but certainly here in America.
Yeah.
That's my number 1.
And it was part of his week with 4 Seasons landscaping. And it was just like this fantastic collection of just idiocy going on from somebody. Fantastic pick. I got to give you credit. Yeah. I didn't even have that in my honorable mentions, and I should have. That.
Yeah, there's very seldom, Leo, very seldom are we applauding Matt's number 1, but we're doing it this week.
Yeah, golf clap.
It out of the park.
Golf clap.
Yeah. My head is off.
My number 1 pick, and I don't want to change it, is what I just called the middle of Tenet. And this is what Matt sort of spoke on to it. And it's the wow moment of the movie. It's the construction of how we're seeing these individuals invert time. And if you haven't seen Tenet yet, it really sort of kicks off when John David Washington sees these bullet holes in the glass, and they're like, "What happened here?" And he says, "It hasn't happened yet." And a fight scene starts from there. And then for the next, I want to say this entire sequence until we get back to the wow moment might be 40 minutes, 35 minutes of where we go. You start to understand the rules of the world that Christopher Nolan has set up. And it's at that point that you start to enjoy the movie. I think you're always challenged by a Nolan film, by the rules that he's set up in these crazy worlds that he has. This is the moment where you've understood what's going on, and now you're allowing yourself to be sort of in amazement that he's able to put this together in an aha moment. And that's when it happens in the middle of the film. And you could also highlight the ending of Tenet, which I haven't had a chance to go back and watch a second time. But I think on a second viewing of knowing that there's two people going two different ways in time. And a lot of those action sequences, I would just appreciate more now knowing, again, the rules that were set up. It was, a lot at a fast pace with Tenet. And so going back maybe a second time, I think I would appreciate it. So Tenet is my number one. I'll give you my honorable mention that wasn't mentioned. Besides that, I think you guys have knocked everything off my list. And that is Bill Murray in On the Rocks, a movie I didn't like, Matt didn't like.
Yeah.
But if there was one scene in the movie when they get pulled over by the cops, it's the Bill Murray moment we sort of needed in 2020. And I
desperate for a Bill Murray scene that you
I even talked about it. That's exactly what I think would happen if Bill Murray really did get pulled over.
I'm a fan of On the Rocks, so
we found him.
I'm the odd man out. So I liked that scene too.
Well, I didn't hate that scene. I'll say that much.
Yeah.
All right, I got a couple honorables, and then we'll
go ahead
to Leo here.
Yeah.
We didn't talk about Hayden versus Hoffman, Eddie Redmayne and Sacha Baron Cohen. The scene that they have while they're not in the courtroom, they sort of go toe to toe. And this Sorkin failed in this movie at a certain point, but this scene was good because it sort of laid the philosophy differences at the feet of the viewer in a very succinct way. And I like that. The dance sequence from Borat 2, the menstrual blood dance.
Yeah.
Shocking and amazing. And,
that's a wild one.
And then last I would throw in Mank Throws Up, the scene where Gary Oldman comes to William Randolph Hearst's compound mansion, drunk out of his mind, and goes off on a monologue about Quixote and Sancho and everything, and winds up throwing up on the floor. It was a good, well-acted scene.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There you go. What do you got, Leo?
Yeah, I mean, my honorable mentions were that tracking shot in Vast of the Night. I loved that. I also had the opening home birth scene in Pieces of a Woman, which is not yet on Netflix yet, but when, fans see that, it's a single take shot. And I know, Shia LaBeouf is not exactly in good graces anymore, but that scene is very intense and, fascinatingly done.
I think that's our pick. We still got to talk about it, but I think that's going to be our pick to review next week. I think it comes out in a week on Netflix.
Yeah. And then I also had, there's a teeth face smashing scene in Brandon Cronenberg's Possessor, which is just so gnarly and nasty that I don't think anybody will get those images out of their head after watching it. And I think that's what the point of the scene was.
I had to look away.
Yeah. I mean,
couldn't make my list because I didn't see the whole scene. I had to look away. I couldn't stomach it.
So I listed that. And I also listed, there's a spider nest scene in Monster Hunters, which was my ridiculous favorite action movie of the year, that Mila Jovovich wakes up in this monster spider nest. And
I hate when that happens.
And it's totally cool and gross. And I had a lot of fun with that too. So
nice.
Yeah.
Sweet.
All right. Jawheads, if we missed your favorite scene of 2020 and you have Twitter pulled up, shoot us a tweet at CinemaJaw, or you can always email us feedback@cinemajaw.com. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we have a CinemaWAR looking at the best DC movie scene of all time, plus Matt taking Leo on in movie trivia. Stick with us.
CinemaJaw celebrates Denzel Washington Month with this gut-wrenching scene from the 2012 film Flight, when he finally comes clean.
I'm sorry, Mr. Whitaker. I couldn't hear you. What did you say?
I said, God help me.
Yes, well, however, is it your opinion?
It's my opinion. Trina did not drink that vodka.
Excuse me, Mr. Whitaker?
She saved the boy's life. That's...
Could you speak louder, Captain
Trina
Whitaker?
Marquez did not drink the vodka. Because I drank the vodka.
Objection! Please be seated, sir.
Whitaker misspoke.
Sir.
I drank the vodka bottles. object.
Please be seated, sir. This is not a courtroom.
Well, I object anyway. I drank the vodka bottles on the plane.
Captain Whitaker, on the 3 nights before the accident, October 11th.
October 11th, October 12th, and 13th, and 14th, I was intoxicated. I drank all of those days. I drank in excess.
On the morning of the accident.
I was drunk.
And we are back on CinemaJaw hanging out with Leo Brady, who also goes by a movie guy. He told us his number 1 pick of the year, which was, remind us,
Nomadland.
Nomadland. And I wanted to ask what your worst movie you sat through in 2020 was.
Well, there was a lot. There was a lot of bad movies. I know we already talked about Wonder Woman 1984, but that's not making the cut of worst movies of the year. I'm actually going to make it a tie because there's always so many bad movies I watch. But number 1 is the David Bowie biopic Stardust. I don't know if you guys saw this movie.
I avoided this one.
Yeah, you did the right thing because this is a movie where I'm pretty sure they didn't have the rights to use Bowie's music. So there's no Bowie music in the movie. And it's this weird road trip movie with David Bowie in America when he's trying to make it. And it's so boring and it's just pointless because he's already made it with like, Space Odyssey. So it's like, what are we trying to prove here about David Bowie? He's already a star. I don't really get it. Not very good. And then another one that I really was so disappointed and didn't like was Wild Mountain Time, a movie with Emily Blunt and Jamie Dornan, which is directed by Sean Patrick Flannery, who wrote Moonstruck, which is like a fantastic film. And it's set in Ireland, and it has the most preposterous, ridiculous twist ending ever. And I won't spoil it because it's kind of one of those movies that you should watch for the ending because it's so stupid.
So bad it's good almost?
No, it's almost one of those movies to just fast forward to the ending and then be like, wait, what?
All right.
It's a movie that spins its wheels. It's two people that love each other, but they won't commit to each other. And it's just really bad, really bad.
What's funny about that particular movie is we got screeners at the end of the year. That was one of them. And then I thought, I'll see, I'm a little bit behind on this one. Maybe I'll check it out. Yeah. I saw somebody liked it and I was like, all right, I wrote it down. I'll make time for this one. Then somewhere else, I started to see like hatred on either like Twitter or Letterboxd. And so I was like, well, do I waste my time with this? And when I finally pulled up the reviews, I'm like, whoa, all right, I'm not watching this movie. I don't have time, maybe sometime in like late January or February when I'm looking for a laugh or something.
I think we're gonna have a busy January, February because I think because of what the Oscars did by delaying, we're gonna get so much good stuff in the beginning.
I hope so.
Leo, we asked this question to each other at the beginning of the podcast. How tall are you for the Jawheads?
6'2".
Damn.
I believe Matt had said close to that.
All right, I guess.
But 6'2".
Yeah, I remember the time I was. You probably heard me joking about. We were walking from the Music Box Theater. We had just saw Veronica. Remember this?
God, yes. Terrible. Yes.
And we were walking to another, like the after party or something. And maybe we were at the after party and I was like, I can't even talk to Leo. He's so damn tall and there's noise going on. And there's about, 3 feet between, him up there and me down here. So,
yeah. It didn't help that I think there was bad karaoke going on in the background.
Good times. Again, for the Jawheads that want to check out your reviews, where should we send them, Leo?
Yeah, go to amovieguy.com. You can also catch all my reviews on Twitter, which is my handle is at Leo's a Movie Guy, and also on Facebook at a movie guy and at amovieguy.com, and Instagram is at a movie guy as well for, photos of me and some movie stars that I used to meet, and also photos of me and my 2-year-old son, which if you care about seeing that stuff too.
Oh,
yeah.
Of course we do.
How nice. How nice.
We'll put the links in as well for all.
Yeah. Awesome.
Perfect. Before we get to trivia and before we get to that CinemaWAR, let's open up that fish tank, because I know Phil likes to come up to the top and tell us what we got wrong. Let's open up that fish tank.
Wait a moment! It's fish! Isn't it?
DC! Wake up! No, Pat, it's a giant glass bowl. Hey, get some fish folk.
Who's coming with me besides Flipper? Here.
That's a Sicilian message. It means Luca Brasi sleeps with the fishes.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
Yes, thank you guys so much for letting me out. Off mic, I guess, we had a conversation about the correct way to pronounce Gal Gadot's name.
You mean Gal Gadot?
Gal Gadot.
No,
Gal Gadot.
But you're talking about Gal Gadot, right?
Gal Gadot, I believe. Well, see, and this is foreboding because there were two questions about names that were thrown in here that are equally as challenging for me personally to say. And I would like to apologize to both of these actors in advance. The first one is who played Ovi in Extraction. And that actor is Rudhakshara Jaiswal, if I did that right.
Certainly better than who's would have done. So yeah.
Yeah, he look him up. He actually has a couple of films in India that are I haven't seen them, but they have good reviews. Then the follow-up to that one, it was like a two-parter. It was how long is the one shot, and then how many different kind of cuts and angles were in there. This one was interesting. So that shot is just over 12 minutes, not 13 though. And it's a little frustrating because the director, Sam Hargrave, is kind of being cheeky about the different cuts and angles. Because he has revealed that like his official answer is many, and he encourages everyone to watch it and then try and count for themselves, but he will neither confirm nor deny if everybody's right. So I don't know. I think that could be like a fun game for you to play at home. It is streaming on Netflix, so easy to find out, I think. Or at least I guess make your guess. It's like the jelly bean jar thing.
Yeah.
Then the last one is who is Borat's daughter in Borat 2. And this one seems a little easier. The young actress's name is Maria Bakalova.
Yes.
Which I feel much more confident about that.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. She's amazing. What a talent that Sacha Baron Cohen managed to discover here. I hope to see a lot more from her. She's great.
Yeah, fantastic.
Agree. While we're still in the fish tank, did want to mention that we have been putting out more and more extras to our Patreons. And the one that just dropped most recently was with Brian Tallarico. We ran long. If you listen to that episode, it clocked in at about 2 hours. We also, during that time, actually covered our 15 through 11 picks. And we reviewed The Midnight Sky. Well, we took those two elements, made it a small episode just for our Patreons. So if you're looking for our 15 through 11 picks and a review of the new George Clooney Netflix movie, The Midnight Sky, become a Patreon, support us there, and you will get all of our extra bonus episodes.
Yeah, and I'm really proud, Ryan. We've been doing a really good this year of getting all these bonuses out, and it seems to be doing well for the Patreons. They seem to be enjoying it. We've added a few new ones this month, and just super proud of all the people there on Patreon. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for supporting the show. It means a lot to us. It really does. So if you want to become a Patreon and join us, please go to patreon.com/CinemaJaw. You can also find the link right on our website, and we probably talk about it on social media from time to time as well. So please do join us. We got more cool things coming this year.
Yes. Thank you to all the Patreons, the official Jawheads. Thanks for supporting the show. I think that was everything in there, Phil.
It is. That's all we got.
Jump back in that fish tank.
You bet.
Matt, it brings us to a segment called
CinemaWAR.
And CinemaWAR, it works like this. Me and Matt, we're fighting on a topic. Our guest, Leo Brady, is playing judge and jury and telling the Jawheads who he thinks won the CinemaWAR. Phil, remind the Jawheads what today's CinemaWAR topic is.
Yeah, Ryan, in this week's CinemaWAR, we're going to get down to brass bats and decide once and for all what the pinnacle of all DC films is. Matt, you've gone all in on the heist scene from The Dark Knight. And Rye, you're pulling for the no man's land scene from the original Wonder Woman film. Will Matt make a Joker of himself, or will Ryan get caught in his own lasso of truth? Let this CinemaWAR begin.
Matt, are you going to tell me that a scene in which 10 guys wearing clown masks robbing a bank is better than Wonder Woman crossing no man's land? That is funny. Funny like the clown you are.
Right. Cheesy CGI and sappy music is no substitute for our gritty and realistic introduction to the twisted genius of Nolan's Joker, perhaps the greatest movie villain since Darth Vader.
I remember it like it was yesterday, the press screening for Wonder Woman. The whole movie was a fun watch with a packed theater, but the crossing of no man's land was electric. As soon as Gal Gadot starts climbing up the ladder in her badass Wonder Woman outfit, you could hear cheering in the theater. As she crosses the field and takes on enemy fighter, deflecting bullets, it was closer to being at a sporting event than in a movie. The cheers were that loud.
So good, you can't even pronounce her name right. Christopher Nolan, the master storyteller whose praises you sung earlier in this very podcast, knows how to lace a scene together. His idea that each henchman kills the next one and the next one until the last one turns out to be the Joker is amazing.
Oh, that's so clever, Matt. How about this, though? The single shot of Diana taking on the German fighter with nothing but her shield is one of the great images to come out of superhero films ever. Enough said.
Look, if these two movies were famous paintings, The Dark Knight is the Mona Lisa of the two, and the opening is the Mona Lisa smile. The No Man's Land scene is great, but the Dark Knight opening is a slice of a masterpiece.
All right, but Chris Pine explaining to Diana how dangerous No Man's Land is, and then he says, "We can't save everyone in the war. That's not what we're here to do." And for her to turn around and say, "No, but it's what I'm going to do." If that does not give you goosebumps, you're a lost soul. Wonder Woman's big moment is as wonderful as it gets.
Patty Jenkins is one of the best filmmakers today, no doubt. But if you ask 100 film fans who is the number one best, and I bet 60% of them say Christopher Nolan. Jenkins relies too heavily on slow motion, fake lighting, and effects in the No Man's Land scene. I'll take William Fichtner with a shotgun any day, twice on Sunday.
Wow. Blasphemy. Blasphemy, I tell you. We're button heads here on CinemaWAR. We throw it to our guest, our jury. Leo Brady, what did you think of this CinemaWAR?
Oh, fantastic battle. Fantastic. Ruthless, both of you. You guys should go easier on each other. Tough pick. Ryan is making me really want to go back and revisit the first Wonder Woman and revisit that No Man's Land sequence, because I do think it is fantastic. It's uplifting. It's inspiring. It's cool. But I got to give it to Matt. Yeah. I'm a huge fan. I'm a huge fan of that opener of The Dark Knight.
It's really good.
It's just so good. It's classic. The score, Hans Zimmer's score is fantastic in that entire sequence. Fichtner with the shotgun is a nice little dabble cherry on top for Matt to mention that to get the win, I think.
You know how I knew
bunch of clowns you guys are, a bunch of clowns.
You know how I knew? I was really scared because the No Man's Land scene is a big scene. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah. Fantastic.
But when I went online to watch both of these scenes, I found a couple of 30-minute shot-by-shot breakdowns of the opening to the Dark Knight. There was no such treatment for the No Man's Land scene. So
yeah.
I think the right horse won in this race here.
I do too.
That earns me 20 seconds. And I'm just going to say something we mentioned earlier in the show, which is starting a movie journal. This is something I'm going to recommend to the Jawheads this year. Get yourself a nice notebook. Doesn't have to be fancy, but something you can take with you and write about the films, whether you do it in the theater or once you get home, or just keep track of the titles you watch. I recommend this. It's fun. It's something me and Ryan do, and we get a lot of pleasure out of it. So there you go. That's my 20 seconds.
Awesome. Yeah,
absolutely. I will say, just adding on to Matt's comment, it's also great for when people recommend a movie. You know, when you're getting recommended tons of movies, and you're like, oh, I'm going to watch that. And you never, exactly. And you never remember. Boy, you got that journal. I write them all down, and eventually I'll get to them. So,
and what's cool is, like, 2 years from now, if you keep this habit up, you can go back and look at the journal and see what films you had watched that year, and it's very rewarding.
Yeah,
agreed. Well, we can hear the music. It is time to play some movie trivia, Matt K. In honor of the new Wonder Woman bomb, as we've discovered here, we are playing Christin Wiig Gal Gadot movie trivia, however you want to say it.
I think that's Leo, how you say it.
Yeah, Leo, you're our guest. You get to choose if you want to go first. Let Matt go first. There are steals, and if you do get hung up on any questions, you get one rescue. Rescue me, Ryan.
Oh, okay. I'm going to have Matt go first.
Question number 1 over to Matt K. Matt, besides the DC movies, Gal Gadot also appears in this film franchise, which stars Vin Diesel, Ludacris, and Paul Walker.
Fast and the Furious.
That is correct.
Really? Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, she's in 3 of them, I believe.
Here's something you didn't know about me. Never seen a single one of them.
Whoa.
Nor I.
True.
What?
True story.
Phil, have you any? Are we total blank here on CinemaJaw?
I saw the first 3. I don't like them that much, to be honest. I know that the camp is the appeal, but
yeah, I was a huge naysayer on them for a very long time, but then I just started to, like Phil said, see the camp in it and all. So
you gave in.
All right. Yeah, the ridiculousness.
1-0, Matt K. Question 2 over to Leo Brady. In 2016, Christin Wiig teamed up with Kate McKinnon, Melissa McCarthy, and Leslie Jones for this flop.
What is Ghostbusters?
What is? He's correct. 1-1. Everybody perfect through the easy ones. Question 3 over to Matt K. In 2010, Gal Gadot appeared in this Tom Cruise, Cameron Diaz film.
Ooh. 2013?
No. I don't know where you got that year from. 2010.
2010.
Gal Gadot appeared in this Tom Cruise, Cameron Diaz film.
Wow. Okay, so I hear Cameron Diaz and Tom Cruise, and immediately my mind goes to Vanilla Sky. So that's my guess. Vanilla Sky.
That is incorrect.
Even Phil's wagging his head over there. I got this one way off, huh?
Chance for a steal here, Leo. Can you think of another Tom Cruise, Cameron Diaz film?
Yes, I can. And I don't think I've seen all of this movie. I just know of it. I believe it's called Night and Day.
Night and Day.
That is correct. Yes.
That's the other Tom Cruise, Cameron Diaz.
Yeah, right. And I think it's a James Mangold film, maybe?
It's actually pretty good. It's kind of like a fun spy romance.
Okay. Yeah.
By Matt K's standards. It's 2-1, Leo Brady, and question 4 is over to him. Leo, Christin Wiig lent her voice to this animated film that also starred Seth Rogen, Michael Cera, and Jonah Hill. Name it.
Michael Cera, Jonah Hill. Is it Sausage Party?
It is Sausage Party, yes. It is 3-1, Leo, crushing Matt K, which we all love to see here on CinemaJaw.
Boy, you're just not over that CinemaWAR loss, huh?
Yeah.
Oh, it really bothered me like you wouldn't believe. All right, question 5 over to Matt K. Matt, Christin Wiig has made one film with Cate Blanchett. It came out in 2019. Name it.
Really? Whoa.
True story. 2019, Kristen Wiig made one film with Cate Blanchett.
Oh, wow. Wow.
You have a rescue if you need it.
Yeah. What question number is this?
Number 5. Question.
I'm going to go for an early rescue.
Wow.
Rescue me, Ryan.
All right. Rescue me, Ryan. Question number 5. Your clue is, where did you go to get this clue? Where did you go to get this clue?
2019. Where did you go? The Martian. I have no idea.
That is incorrect.
Leo knows this one.
Absolutely incorrect. It's currently 3-1. You can steal and really blow this wide open here, Leo.
Yeah, I'm going to drop the hammer. It's called Where Did You Go, Bernadette?
Absolutely correct, Leo. Well done.
I forgot that she was in that, honestly.
She's actually pretty good. She's the next door neighbor who's annoyed with Cate Blanchett's character.
Rule. We can only do questions about movies that we review on CinemaJaw.
No. What fun would that be? Listen to this slaughter. It's currently 4-1, Leo, and question 6 is over to him. Leo, Gal Gadot appears in one film with Tina Fey. It also starred Steve Carell. Name the movie.
I think I know this. I believe the movie is called Date Night.
He is on fire, ladies and gentlemen.
Damn.
5-1, Leo. The ball game is all over. Question 7 over to Matt K. Just try to save some face here, Matt. Kristen Wiig has made 2 movies with Matt Damon. One of them,
The Martian.
One of them was The Martian. Name the other film. It came out in 2017.
Damon Wiig, 2017.
Yes.
We were 1 year into the Trump presidency. Trying to remember where I was in 2017. Was doing CinemaJaw. Kristen Wiig.
For the record, this was not reviewed on the podcast.
Yeah, clearly.
I did see it though. I think most of us. Leo probably saw it.
Was it the one where they do the Honey I Shrunk the Kids thing?
Oh boy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I got to remember the name of it. It's not like Little People. It's like Downsizing. That's it. Downsizing.
Holy cow, Matt!
Dude,
wow.
I never saw that movie actually.
Terrible. Did not like that one.
That's what I heard. Yeah.
It is 5-2. Last question of the game is over to Leo. Kristen Wiig starred in Masterminds, in which she convinced her coworker to rob a bank. Which actor played the lead, David, in the film? Masterminds.
It is Jason Sudeikis.
What a guess. And he is wrong.
Oh,
my goodness.
What?
I mean, who are you going to mix up with Jason Sudeikis? I have no idea. I haven't seen this movie. I'm just going to take a wild guess and say Fred Armisen.
Oh my goodness. That is incorrect as well. We were looking for Zach Galifianakis.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, good old Zach Galifianakis. If it came down to a tie, we call it a jawbreaker. Overall, Leo, Gal Gadot, great actress or no?
Ooh. No.
Yeah. If you have to think about it.
I'd give it with you. And especially in this last performance of Wonder Woman, it really shined through.
She's gorgeous. She's a very good looking actress. I think this recent movie revealed more than we wanted to know.
Yeah. Real jawbreaker was this age of Gal Gadot. Matt, closest to. How old is Wonder Woman?
Yeah, how old is Wonder Woman? Gal's in her 30s, but just barely, I think. Well, she's a mom now. I would say maybe she is 33. That's my
Lock
guess.
him in at 33. Leo, you got to guess?
Oh, I'm going to go. It's the Price is Right. I'm going to go 32.
Give that one to Matt K. 35. Oh, 35 for Gal.
That's amazing. Virtual handshake, Leo. Well played. Good game.
Leo does win this one. He slaughters Matt K.
It happens.
It does happen.
Yeah.
Brings us to the end of a very fun Jaw as we conclude our Best of 2020 series. First and foremost, we want to thank our guest, Leo Brady, for coming on.
Thanks so much, guys. Just love hanging out and talking movies. Always fantastic.
We'll have you back again soon, Leo, sometime in 2021.
Can't wait.
Absolutely. We also got to thank our producer, our editor, Fill Me In Phil.
Oh, yeah, it's awesome. It's a great way to start the year. I'm glad to be here, guys. Thank you.
Yeah, let's have a great 2021. Matt, we also got to thank our sponsors.
Yes, thanks to Overcast and the Chicago Podcast Co-op, who help us get great sponsors like them.
If you would like to support CinemaJaw, the easiest way to do so is by leaving us a review wherever you're listening to this podcast.
Yes, and while you're leaving that review, please click subscribe wherever you're listening. That also helps us out tremendously.
Until next week, I'm Rye the Movie Guy.
I'm Matt K.
And keep on jawing about the movies.